All right, we're back. Busy week.
All right.
Busy week. We have a fantastic guest today. We had a great guest yesterday. Yesterday, though, I appeared on Husky Talk, Derek.
I know. Look at you, man. You're like, UConn alums are coming out of the joint.
Oh my God! They're asking me questions from 9,000 years ago. It was great, though. It was great. And then he threw me on Worcester, Massachusetts. I guess they run a sports radio show there.
Okay.
Okay. And I appeared on that at 8:30 last night. I didn't know what I was going to talk about. I was talking NFL football for an hour.
Hey, it's not like we ever had a loss for words, either of us. So we're good.
Oh, no. I could, listen, if we were talking about my dog, I probably could talk about that for an hour. All right. We have a great guest on today, Coach Mele, special teams coordinator at North Carolina. This guy's had a fantastic career. Started at Division III, has worked his way all the way up. He was at Mississippi State with Mike Leach. He's now at Mac Brown at North Carolina. It's just a fantastic rise in his career. We can't wait to talk to him because, as we know, the coaching road is a long road at college, and there's a lot of bumps and ups and downs and sideways. And he's navigated it. He's doing a fantastic job. He's one of the fast rising stars in the coaching industry. Without further ado, let's bring on Coach Mele. Coach, what's going on?
I don't know how I follow that up, man. I appreciate you having me, though.
Yeah, we like the intro. We're pretty good at it.
we could also call this Coach in Car podcast.
Yeah, hey, we get them whenever we can.
You know what I mean? They're riding from one place to the next, and you get them to talk to them for 30 minutes while they have 30 minutes to be able to talk to you. Coach, talk about, and I briefly touched on it. I think your career is so interesting to me, and a lot of coaches that maybe start at the Division III level, they have dreams of doing some of the things that you're doing now. Talk about your career, where you started, and how you rose in the coaching ranks.
Yeah, played Division III football at William Patterson University up there in Wayne. And I always like to tell people, half the campuses in Wayne were Jersey Housewives was filmed. The other half was in Patterson, where Lean on Me was filmed. So right in the middle is where, right in the middle with Pioneers played football. So, great place, man. Met a lot of great guys, and kind of went on to my coaching career from there. So I started 1 year in my professional life. I guess I was in sales, did that for a year, and just kind of a little hole in my heart and missing football. And I hit my old head coach up and said, hey, love to come around once in a while. And once in a while turned into 1 day a week to 2 days a week. And then I quit my job for a whole $1,000 for that season. So that wasn't a great financial move. And I guess that's just to lead off with. I mean, you don't get into coaching for the money. And
nope.
And if you do that, and if you hold true to that, and as you move along, I mean, you'll always be rewarded for the relationships and with the kids and developing players and what you get out of the game, that type of thing. So anyway, 2 years at Willie P. I got a big raise to 6 Gs the next year. So that paid for gas. Paid for gas for the second season, and coach DBs and coach special teams. Had a great time doing that. And the head coach at the time, Larry Rico, went to Marist High School, and he brought a couple of us with him. They had a coaching change. I actually had an opportunity to go to Montclair State. I just couldn't bring myself to do it. It was the arch rival, and it wasn't much more money anyway. It was kind of the same price tag.
Absolutely not. Same gig, different colors.
Yeah, great. Great guy, Coach Giancola. It was. I couldn't pull myself to do it. So anyhow, coached a year at Marist High School, coaching special teams, and co-DC special teams, coach running backs on offense. It was about a 3-man show. And the following season, a good buddy of mine that I worked with at WP, Chuck Coffey, worked with Pope John last year as the OC there. He gives me a shout. He's at St. Peter's College down the road. So needed like a pass game guy, receiver coach, and he had actually went out to Texas Tech that previous season, came back with all of with Coach Leach's practice plans and the drills and all of it. So we came away, we hooked up over there at St. Peter's, and we had a same type of thing, high flying air raid offense, and a lot of statistics and a lot of fun doing it. And that was a great time. So back then, my wife and I were married, and we had one kid. We had on the way. I guess we had our first one on the way. I have 4 daughters at home. So I always like to say, I got 4 girls at home. I got 100 boys at work. So
Right.
I'm good. I'm good with that, and I'm blessed, and they're fantastic. But so we started looking around down south, for cheaper real estate and another opportunity, and called a couple schools, talked to Pete Lembo when he was at Elon, great guy there, and I wound up getting hitched up with Joe Reich at Wingate University. Fantastic human. His brother obviously was Frank, who coached in the NFL.
Yep.
And Joe's been there for 20 plus years. Just every record in the book, he's got it. And he just recently he retired. He's now the AD this year. So congrats to him. But so I got there, coaching special teams, coaching running backs, and we had a great run. We went 2-3 rounds deep in the playoffs. My kind of last season there. And I don't know how it happened. It'll be in the book one day. But I wrote a letter to Leach, and it was just one of those things where I had a mutual friend and Matt Mummy. It was Hal's son. It was at Davidson, and having run the offense previously and read his book, and there's some other coaches I don't think I'd want to work for, but I just kind of felt like he had a different way of approaching things, and I thought I would kind of work with that well. And so anyhow, I shoot him a letter, real off the cuff. Hey, Coach, BS, you're out of it. You want to come on down to Wingate? We'll have some beers and let's talk some football and that type of thing. So ironically, I'm in Oregon with Joe. We kind of did a little 2-man thing, went out there, and small talk and football with some of their coaches. My phone rings and it says, look down, it's Lubbock, Texas. I go, who the hell is this, man? I don't know anybody in Texas, man. I'm a Jersey guy, and play the message back, and it's Eric, Mike Leach. What the hell does that mean? So
Yeah.
I call him back, and he just says, hey, if you're in Florida, let me know. So go home, tell my wife, hey, I'm going to Florida this weekend. So
That's what I figured you would say. That's it.
Yeah. So he's in, he had a place in Key West. So, hop a plane, go down to Key West, meet up about 8 p.m. at night. He comes rolling in with like a Key West Little League baseball cap on. And he's doing, I think, something similar to this, some podcast or something. He's walking, he's got the thing hanging out of his ear. So we meet up, it's about 8 p.m.-ish. And, we start our island tour, kind of one cocktail at every bar that we, restaurant that we saw. And next thing you know, it's...
Sounds about right.
Yeah. Next thing you know, it's about 4:30 in the morning, and the 3-legged roosters are going off. And I got no idea where I'm at. I got to find my way back to the hotel, man. I'm calling a taxi cab or whatever, but... great time, talked about everything under the sun and talked some ball. And he invited me back down this summer, and it was Hal and a couple of his guys, Mason Miller, a guy I worked with for several years, and the Key West high school head coach, Jerry Hughes at the time. And we, same thing, 2-3 days with like the Hangover movie. We, toured Jimmy Buffett's studio, went fishing, did a little mini clinic at the high school. Just a great time, and so we just kind of carried on the relationship from there, and he winds up getting a job at Washington State, and this is like in December. So, I'm hitting him up. I'm not getting a lot of traction. I'm sure his phone is going, crazy. Same way we got to Mississippi State. He showed me his phone. He had 7,000 text messages, unanswered.
Unanswered, right? Like, unanswered. Not exactly a tech guy.
No, but guess what? Like, he was going to return probably, 7,000 text messages at some point. Man,
Right.
That's how he was. But it was crazy. So he gets out there. So anyway, I tell my wife, I'm like, hey, listen, I'm going to go hop a plane out there. He knows who I am. I mean, it's not like he's going to, be surprised that, some stranger or whatever. So anyway,
Right.
I fly into the Quality Inn, Pullman, Washington for like my little winter break or whatever. And I text him. He's got a press conference on a Tuesday. So Wednesday morning, I text him, hey, I'm at the Quality Inn in Pullman. So what time are you around the office today? He said, flew in, flew out. I'm back in Key West. So now I'm like, oh my God. I got a wife. I got 3 kids at the time. I've already spent some money going to Key West. I spent some money out here. Now I got to call my dad, my brother. Like, hey man, I'm gonna need a loan to get back to Key West. At this point, it's just I'm in too deep. I gotta see this through.
Yep, I got to keep going.
Yeah. So I told Mike, I said, hey, I'll meet you in Key West this weekend. And then I think that's when he realized, he told me that's when I knew I couldn't shake you. So he invited me back out. I tell Joe about it back at Wingate, and he actually he flew me out there on professional development money and told me to come back with some clinic notes, so we can kind of justify it. But he was just kind of speaks to what a great human he was,
Yeah, that's
Right.
pretty freaking supportive.
That is
That's
really
that's
cool.
unbelievable.
Yeah, no, great guy, man. So get out there, spend about 2 days, no real formal interview. It's just, and he's not even around that much, honestly. I'm just introducing myself to coaches and sitting in meetings, and we meet up the night before I'm leaving on a red eye, and he said, "Hey, job pays $30,000. I know you got a pile of kids at home. You want the job?" Don't know what the job was, and my wife and I had kind of discussed we need a certain amount of money, which we weren't going to get that either. It was about half as much we were making, and I'm like, heck yeah, I want the job, Shake his hand, call my wife, and I'm like, hey, we got it, how much money do we get, And the answer to that was, the answer to that was sell the house, one of our cars, and all the furniture. But we're heading west, And God bless her, man. She was supportive, and she kind of saw that the vision of what we were going to do, and kind of bet on us, and got out there. And it turned out, I walk in the door and get introduced, and it's hey, this is Eric Mele. This is Coach Leach's new, QB analyst, assistant type thing. So I'm like, well, that worked out well, I think, as far as position goes. I get to sit with him and get a master's education in the air raid and all that. So I guess first weekend in there, it's funny, it's Pullman obviously has some snow and some colder weather, but we're in the office and it's 2:30 in the morning. It's just me and him. We're watching film. There's a whiteboard filled with mafia hierarchy, Y cross and tags on that play, and then there's the Vikings, where they originated from, and then there's mesh and different variations of mesh, pizza spots across the country, just so on and so forth, man. So you're in there just just having a blast, man, real enjoyable, and then hits whatever about 2:30 in the morning. He's like, all right, let's hit it for tonight, and we'll come back tomorrow. And I'm like, hey, coach, would you mind giving me a ride home, man? I don't have a car. Basically, I got a bike and I'm hopping a shuttle like I'm a college kid. This is, kind of 10 years into my coaching career,
Right.
30, 31, 32 years old. And he goes, sorry, I can't, I walk to work. And as he's telling me this, he's putting a miner's light on his head and these tracks on his shoes, and he goes trekking off into the snow. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me, man. I guess I'm walking back to my, this apartment or whatever. So
sounds about right, though.
Yeah, that was the beginning of the journey there with him, and got a raise pretty quick, and then promoted onto the field kind of that second year, and then coached special teams for him, and coached some running backs, and came to Mississippi State and did the same thing, and just thankful and blessed that he gave me that opportunity, and I've always just been trying to to honor him and do a great job, because to make him look good, that was always my kind of driving force, man. So miss him, but he helped me get to where I am today, and
that's incredible.
Yeah, no, can't make it up. I was going to say that.
No, absolutely not. Like that in itself is like a movie. He's himself, right? And I the Matsakises and Manny and stuff. They worked with him at Texas Tech and had always had a good relationship. So, I had always air raid and spread football and all that kind of stuff. Like Mike Leach to me was always like that guy. And then out of nowhere, like I see all of a sudden he gets to Washington State and you pop up on his radar. And I said, this is a Jersey guy, man. Like he went to Willie P. Like, how the hell do they link up? Like, and then to just hear the persistence that all of that kind of stuff. Like I had known a little bit of it, but to really get the full, like, it's just like, yeah, I flew to Washington State, was hoping he was there. Now I got to go back to Key West. And then you hear it from firsthand, like all those stories about him in Key West and how there was just so much more to him than football, and talking about this, talking about that. Like, you're talking about a whiteboard with pizza spots and mafia, like all that was just who he was. And then at the same time, highly successful in every aspect in football. I mean, and his journey kind of mimics like your thing too. He was sleeping in the back of a car, lawyer, all that kind of stuff. So to just see him and then to see your story, like it's just phenomenal, because Dave and I have been fans of Leach from the jump, right? And like, so anytime we could get stuff on him, it's just amazing. So it's just wild.
Well, I can tell you this, Coach. I've been to Key West, so I know what can happen Once you start, and this was back when I was single, but like Key West, I used to, because I coached high school football for 20 years, and before camp, I would go on a different vacation for a week, and I did Miami and Key West as one of the years, and I mean Key West I had never been there before, and it was so much fun. You're going from place to place to place, and you're right. Like you get to 2 a.m. there, and you're like, wait, I'm staying is all the way over that side of the island. Like, and I had a scooter when I was right around a scooter, and I'm like, wait a minute, like, can you drive a scooter when you have a few drinks? I don't know if you can. I didn't know what the rule is with a scooter. I was like a 35-year-old man riding a scooter around the island. But I know exactly what that's right. Like, and going back to like, it's amazing to hear, and Derek's 100% right. Like, we've loved Mike Leach's offense for a long, which was originally, How Mummy and I called when I first started coaching in 2000, as first head coaching job I got was in 2005, I think it was. And my initial mesh and the dig across we used to call it Valdosta. And then when we did, and eventually we started doing the full mesh concept, and we used to call that Texas Tech, and that we would call that out, and the kids were like, "What is Valdosta?" They're like, "Why do you call it Valdosta?" And I would give them like a dissertation on what it was, but all the way through. And Derek coached with me. 18 years later, it was still called Valdosta, the shallow cross with the dig. And then the routes on the outside of it with the back releasing, and we still called it Valdosta like all those years. And the funny part is we call Valdosta as a call, and every team I've ever played against, and this is one of the things, I guess, a nuance of New Jersey, right? Because the mesh concepts are really starting to get bigger in here, but obviously much bigger in like Texas and the South, and but I called the same play for years, and no one ever in New Jersey picked up on what it was. We would call out Valdosta over and over again, and we would run it, and no one ever knew what play that was. I always was amazed by it. I'm like, don't these guys all coach? I'm like, they never knew the history of the mesh concept, So that's my little story. Then run that single play. Always had that playing since 2005. And learned it literally from Hal Mummy and Mike Leach, watching videos and watching their stuff, and then originally watching the original run and shoot, which Derek is obviously a huge proponent of with Mouse Davis. I used to have the old videos when they were with June Jones. Actually, it was originally Mouse Davis when he went to Hawaii with June Jones, and then he had all the old clips going way back to the Houston. The game with Andre Ware and the Houston, what was the Atlanta Falcons when he used to run it there. I mean, it's an amazing system. So it's so cool to see how you really kind of rose up and found Mike Leach and now are where you are.
Yeah, and I tell you what, he's also, part of when I landed here, and I'm talking to Coach Brown on a Zoom call, and he hops on. I mean, just super sharp, and obviously there's a reason why he's won a national championship. And talking to my girls and talking to my family, but those guys were actually really good buddies, and they really like respected each other and go about their business a little bit differently, maybe from a personality standpoint, but a lot of same common grounds, core values, and really sticking to what they believe in, and that's why I think they're both successful. And just kind of gravitate towards those people, the like-minded people that have a clear vision and want to do right by the kids and, run a good program, man. So I'm fortunate to kind of land over here now as well.
Talk about special teams. So what is it about, and both me and Derek have been special team coordinators. Derek is now a special teams coordinator. And, what is it about special teams that you find so intriguing and so unique and so dynamic?
Yeah, I guess, personal to me was my career at William Patterson started playing special teams, and as I started playing a little bit more defense, I never really turned my back on the special teams. That was just my first kind of those opportunities that I was given there. And to me, it's football. I mean, it's this selfless. All those plays are really selfless. There's 11 guys running full speed, or there's 11 guys got to get a block, 10 guys got to get a block for a guy in kick return. Those types of plays really take some courage, and they take some play for the guy next to you, like all those coach cliche things. And that's what really resonates with me, and that's why I wanted to kind of hone in on that and give back to that, and really I think you can really foster and develop or help with the culture on your team if your special teams are really playing for each other, and making plays that can obviously impact the game.
I found the special teams too it's a unique opportunity to work with guys on the offensive side of the ball, defensive side of the ball, multitude of different players, and special teams coordinate. One of the things that I thought is so amazing about it, like in college, obviously everybody takes its each side of the offense, defense, and special teams incredibly important. But what I've noticed about special teams is great special teams coordinators make that as important as the offense is, defense is to the whole entire game. And then the players start to gravitate towards that. Like they look at it like, hey, we could score points here. We could change the game here. This is not something in between to get us to offense or defense. This is an opportunity for us to change the game dramatically. And I think that's what always was so interesting about special teams. The first time I got a coordinator job, I couldn't get offense or defense coordinator job. And he said, well, I'll give you a special teams coordinator job. And I was like, oh. And then once I gravitated towards it, I realized, oh my goodness, like we literally could change the game and swing it in our favor, put a game away, come back from being down. It was such a unique opportunity. Talk about that part of special teams.
Yeah, I think it's part of your identity of your team. You have to, if you're trying to make plays. I mean, the air raid was an attacking system. Right. Mike always loved defenses that attacked as well. Like his thing was give me the ball back, whether it be a turnover, or big plays that way, or if they're going to score, okay, let them score. If the ball goes over your head because you're trying to make a play, I'm good with that because then we get the ball back. And the same thing for me. I mean, I got a million stories, but stuff. You run a touchdown back, or a guy doesn't return the ball, and he come over. Why isn't the guy trying to make a play there? So we were always treating those as offensive plays. Punt return, kick return. That wasn't a fair catch opportunity, or try and get the ball back to the offense. It was our chance to make a play. And then on the defensive units, it was. I mean, I remember kicking to McCaffrey, and we were spraying the ball over the field, and he comes over and goes, "Hey, why aren't we kicking this guy?" I'm like, Coach, right now they're number one in America, and he's averaging about 35 yards of return. That's why I'm not kicking to him. He goes, well, don't be afraid of this guy. Go ahead and make some plays. It's just, all right, Coach. But that's the way. I think it's part of the identity. The kids need to hang their hat on it, and they need to understand, like you said, it just needs to. It's a momentum thing that can swing the game at any point, and you need that.
Anytime.
When you're playing with teams that are very similar to each other, it's going to come down to that. Whether
right.
Small amount of plays, but you better be ready to show up.
It's really, really unique thing. And coming to North Carolina, I haven't been to the University of North Carolina. It's one of the most beautiful schools in the country, with a unique, great downtown. It's a great student atmosphere. It's always been obviously traditionally known for its basketball. But football has been a quiet power at different times, and Mack Brown has come in and really resurged North Carolina football into a national powerhouse again. Talk about what it was like to get an opportunity to go coach with Mack Brown, and obviously you're in the early stages of it. But talk about what it's been like so far, and to be able to work with Mack Brown.
Yeah, I think just the overall plan he has, it's phenomenal. It's very detailed. I mean, he's very mindful of what's going on with the players. I mean, he's at lunch every day, and he's greeting every kid as they walk in, and he's asking them about their day, and he truly cares, So he really, tries to develop them, I think, holistically, because I think that's kind of some of the magic when you get good teams with the chemistry and those guys all pulling together. you've got to have, it comes from the top. He cares about them, and then he wants them coached hard. That's the thing. He wants those guys developing. He wants them put in tough situations, and he wants them to reach their fullest potential. So it's been exciting. It's like I said, different than Mike, but a lot of similarities. A lot of similarities. And there's some old school stuff in there, which I kind of vibe with. Some of the new age, softer stuff. Not so much. But these guys are tough, and they want to play hard. They want our guys to play hard. They want to be challenged, and I do too. Just as a coach, I want to be held accountable, and make sure I'm pulling my weight on the staff, type of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember
Awesome.
when Mac Brown was at Texas, and when he won with Vince Young, and that was one of the most it's one of the most iconic moments in college football, because USC and Brian Cushing was the star for them back then from Bergen Catholic as linebacker. I remember just as a high school coach and how everyone thought of Brian Cushing as this unstoppable force, and obviously he was a great pro for a long time. And then when Vince Young shook him to go into the end zone, I just remember, my goodness, it was just an incredible moment. Obviously, won the national championship, and that was really even though Mac Brown had been around for long, he'd been in North Carolina before, right? And it had been around for a long time, and had been a very successful coach. That was the first time I ever saw anybody take the quarterback and just say, "Hey, you can run and pull at any time you want." And I thought it was so interesting. Those early 2000 time periods with Mike Leach, with what Mac Brown was doing with the quarterback, with what USC was doing with passing the ball, and with what's his name? I forgot. I can't believe it slips my mind. Matt Leinart and Reggie Bush. What they were doing with the running back passing game in college, which really wasn't a thing. You really kind of ran the ball with the back until then. It was like a changing moment in college football. And now you see all of these things integrated in college football in some capacity, maybe all of it in the same offense. You see, air raid type offenses that'll run the quarterback, and so I think it's interesting how all these concepts that in their own separate entity emerged in the 2000s now are meshed, for lack of a better word, into different offenses. You see it with, Gus Malzahn, where he integrated the spread wing T into his offenses in Auburn. Now you see teams running a lot of wing T principles in their blocking schemes, and Lincoln Riley does it. It's so interesting to see it. Talk about the evolution since you started coaching in football that you really are seeing, in some of the trends that you're seeing in college football now.
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit on the head. I mean, there's a book actually called Wishbone Wisdom, Emery Ballard, and it talks about how you try to give the ball to all your playmakers and make sure the offense isn't predictable on who's going to get the ball and space the field out, right? But laterally, and who's getting there's deceptives to it. I mean, honestly, it's weirdly it's directly the air raid is the same thing. You're trying to distribute the ball to different players. You're trying to stretch the field horizontally and vertically. You're trying to get the ball in space to people, let them make plays, your best players. So all of this stuff, I think, has merit. I mean, if you want to run the, spread run game, do that, but to me, I think the real successful teams really have an identity and stay true to whatever their system is or what they believe in. I don't think it could be all of it, but once you kind of tailor it to something and say, hey, we're going to have some air raid pass concepts, but we are going to run the quarterback a little bit. And, we might specialize in this, but that's it. Then you go to bed with it and you rep it and really get good at it. So it doesn't matter what the defense is doing. It's more about your execution, or trying to pick a perfect play. You can't. I mean, they're going to make mistakes. They're not always going to be in the same place that you expect them to be before the snap or after the snap. So it's just about, adapting, but having that comfortability because they put all the reps in that they can adjust on the fly and everybody knows where they're going to be. And then you can execute your plays. But yeah, it's been a total revolution. I mean, the game's changed so much. I mean, even like you mentioned Jersey ball, earlier. I mean, that was running the football. We ran the veer at my high school, and I was the quarterback. You couldn't see me behind the line of scrimmage. That was part of the advantage. And it was I threw 5 passes a game. I think I completed about 3 out of 5 every week because Nobody thought we were going to throw it. There's a wide open tight end somewhere, that type of thing. But and we were successful. We won a state championship and all that. But we've come a long way. Football's come a long way since since doing a lot of those condensed sets and all that. But
yeah, no, it's so yeah, Derek, good.
No, it definitely has. I mean, and you can just look at the evolution of it, and it's kind of funny. You kind of look at it, and for a while it was spread, and now you start to see, the trends coming back with Michigan winning a national championship, and they were pounding the rock a lot more than they were chucking it around, right? You're talking 2 tight ends, 3 tight ends. So I just think the trends of the game just keep coming back around, especially now high school wise, with the limitations on how much contact you can actually have and all of those kind of things. Tackling's just not taught like it was back in the day. And, the physicality of the game itself is not like it is back in the day. So it kind of warrants like a spread system. But now you see some guys starting to pound it again. And it's like, hey, we better get back to it. But the trends of football, just in general, I think, have just, even it just continuously always changing and evolving. And I think that's, part of being a great coach is you either adapt or you die, right? And you kind of got to roll with that. And, I think that's just such a pivotal part. And you look at look at a guy like Mac Brown that you now get to work for. I mean, and he's been around the game a long, long time. Yet he's still at the top of it because he's willing to kind of go through that process of adjusting on the fly and things of that nature. Is there anything specifically that you have changed throughout your process to where you are now?
Yeah, I would just say that some of it has to do with the players. Some guys too get too tied to their own system that they're not willing to adapt to what your personnel looks like. I mean, I guess that's the biggest piece. I want to be aggressive always. That's the thing. But there's different ways to be aggressive. So on a punt return, are we aggressive trying to block kicks? Or are we aggressively trying to return balls? That depends on how good we are at hold up. That depends on how good the returner is on the back end, or if we got a guy or two that has a good knack for getting their hands on the football. So I think that's a really a big piece of that, especially get to new places. You really got to find out the personnel and how does that fit into your philosophy or what you believe in. And if it doesn't quite fit, then you better figure out a way to make it fit so it works for those guys to be successful. I mean, at the end of the day, they're the ones making the plays. We can draw everything we want on paper, on the whiteboard, and look how pretty this is, and this should have worked, and all that. We need the best stuff that's going to help them make the plays. So whatever that is, you're going to have to figure that out.
No, it first and foremost always comes down to the people you have, right? You got to be thinking about how to get the. I heard Brady say, I think it was yesterday, on one of the sports talk shows, or maybe it was the day before, and he talked about his receivers, and he said his job was to make sure his playmakers got the ball early, at least got a touch early, because he didn't want them running 25 routes in the first half for 25 yards while he's dropping 3 steps, and they coming back looking at him like, are you ever going to, get the ball to me? So he would try to get his people the ball early. And I think about football as it's people number one, right? It's, how can you take advantage of numbers? How can you get more numbers than they have at a place? How can you create space long before you get to the last part, which is scheme? Can you get the ball to guys that can make a difference? Can you take advantage of numbers out of a point of attack, whether it's offense, defense, or special teams? Can you have more than them there? Period. End of story. And then can you create space? Is there an opportunity where you can get a guy who's got wiggle and space and get him going before you get to really, okay, I'm going to out scheme somebody? Because if you take care of all those things first, then your genius maybe can come out. But if I think a lot of guys in coaching, and you've probably been around a lot of it, if you think your genius is before all those other things, you're going to be in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, I tell you what, we had a return against Cal at Washington State, punt return, and we had one at Mississippi State, a kick return, that stick out in my head because it was literally like it was drawn up, but it wasn't like it was some elaborate scheme drawn up. It was just the way we had it on paper. It was our guys going to execute the fundamental techniques that we just based everything off of. You know what I mean? Are they going to be able to get in position on the right side of the guy they're trying to block? And work their hands and work their feet and just do what they're supposed to do. and it just hit like a unicorn. I mean, it's been, been coaching for 21 years. It happened to me twice where I felt like the exact piece of paper that we drew up on special teams like hit, but it wasn't the scheme. It was the players executing the fundamentals and the techniques,
That's a huge part of it, and I think that's the most important part, like getting those guys to do what you want them to do and to do it really well, and then really whatever you put together can really have a chance at success. And then obviously as coaches, you guys adapt, right? So they figure out something you're doing, you take those good people and you put them in a different area to do a different thing, and they execute that, right? And I think it's really, really it's an amazing thing. I think coaches at like the high school level, a lot of times we talk to coaches at the high school level, some of them understand how important the people are, and some of them try to take a square peg and put it into a round hole and say, this is what I run only, right?
Yep. This is my system. This is what we do. This is not, we don't do that. We're going to do this. Not exactly a key to success.
Yeah, you have to have a system, right? But you have to be able to adapt that system to the guys you have, right? So that because if your tailback is 6'2", Derrick Henry at 200 or 6'3", 230 pounds, standing there, you could certainly dot the I right there. No matter what you want to do, you're probably going to be okay. And then if you're you got a receiver like an Edelman who's shifty and he get into space to do a lot of things, you got to adapt to that, and you figure out little nuances on it. Recruiting, and obviously that is everybody's hot button word on every single thing on any show you'll ever see. Talk about what you guys are doing from a recruiting standpoint, what kind of guys you're looking for, and how you guys approach that process.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's turned to the point now where it's just you're constantly recruiting. I mean, it's just there's no off season, there's no downtime, and you're on Twitter and you're on the phone and you're constantly trying to get guys to campus as many times as you can. And Coach Brown, that's one thing too I'd say about him. I mean, really, what an awesome, like, I'm not even going to say it's not a recruiting pitch, and Leach is the same way. It's not like a salesman recruiting pitch. It's honesty. They're forthright. And they tell you exactly what you're going to walk into and why they want you and how you'd fit into the program. And at the same time, if there's not their type of guy, they're not going to take you, right? If you're not a good citizen, right, who works hard in the classroom and is going to work hard in the football field and give good effort, and just be a good person, do all those things, then like they don't want you part of the program. And I think some guys will compromise some of those things for a guy's certain talent level. And I think you're better off having a guy who maybe is not quite as talented, who's going to work hard in all aspects and be coachable. And that's how you get teams that are consistently year in, year out going to win football games for you. So that's the hard part too nowadays. With so many people, there's so many people in these guys' ears, right? These kids' ears that are giving them all kinds of advice, and a lot of times the advice isn't great in my opinion. And so they don't know quite what they want. Yeah, they don't know what they want, and you're trying to tell them honestly what the best move is. And listen, if it's not at our place, you need to go somewhere else. But you need to find a best place for you. But it's difficult. It's getting difficult.
Well, I think you're 100% right, because I think there's people who will advise them that don't talk straight to them, like aren't willing to have difficult conversations, saying, hey, like, maybe you are not an FBS guy. Maybe you are an FCS guy or lower, whatever the level is, right? And people around them aren't willing to have that conversation. I've seen so many kids blow opportunities, like let's say you guys offered them and a few other schools offered them, or 5 or 6 other guys offered them, and they think they could sit on the offer forever. They don't realize how the process works. Like, that you're filling up your recruiting base. You have a let's say at a position, a few guys that you really like. If one of these guys are willing to come to you, that's who you want there. And maybe there's obviously you have a number one priority or two and so forth, but you don't want a guy to take you through the ringer unless he is the number one guy in the country. I understand that, quarterback, those kind of, but you really have to be the very, very best at your position. You could
Absolutely.
be you could be a top 200 to 300 in the country, which is one of the top players, But, you can't just sit on 20 offers and not eventually make a choice, because all those coaches have to be able to figure out how their puzzle fits for their upcoming season. Talk about like how you guys manage that process, because I feel like that's probably incredibly difficult conversations for coaches to have with players that you're recruiting, and very difficult for, I know parents don't understand it. Like you would know way better than me, but just some of the people that I deal with, I don't think they understand, and which means that obviously a lot of times the players don't necessarily understand that. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think it's just, again, like you have to have the honest conversation with them, and hopefully it gets through to them. And
Right.
to me, it's always, hey, listen, we want you. Okay, that's why you're here, or that's why you're on campus, or that's why we've offered you, and you're a top guy, or the top guy, or you're our guy, and we don't want to move on before we know that you want to come here or don't want to come here. But we have to keep an open communication, because as the timeline continues to shrink for your decision-making process, we're going to have to protect our program and recruit other people at your position. So if you tell us right now that you're on board, we're on board. Let's go. Everybody's happy, man. We're not going to recruit your position anymore, or we are. We're taking 3 guys at your spot, and you're one of them, and we got you. But if you don't, and as this continues, and you take other visits and show other interest, and you're not recruiting us back, showing us that you want to be here, we're going to have to find the guy that wants to be here, that we also like, who's a good player. And if you tell them that, as you kind of go through the process and say, hey, where are you at? Right now we got to bring a guy in on an official this weekend because we're waiting on you, but we can't afford to let this weekend go by. Got to bring somebody on campus. So some kids, I think, actually understand that and realize, okay, I gotta start whittling down, how many schools I have, or I gotta give these guys a real answer, because at the end of the day, you only get to pick one.
Right.
And I always tell the parents, hey, listen, like, there's NIL involved and all these other things, but you go to a campus, you've got to see yourself or envision yourself on that campus for 4 to 5 years to be successful. Football aside, if it's a place you don't want to live, or a school that you're not going to enjoy, it's not really going to work out. You can't just go to college for a year and then jump into the NFL. Like, you're going to have to spend some time there. So, like, get all the information, right? A smart man gets all the information and then makes an informed decision. So, see those couple places you want to see, and if you're not some elite top guy in the country, like, go to a Division I school, but also go to an FCS school, and go to a D2 school, and go to a D3 school, and kind of have notes you can compare. So when you get these offers or opportunities, you're informed, and you can make a great choice.
Right. And it's something that we tell our guys all the time, right? I mean, Dave's heard me say it 1,000 times. Like, even in this world of, where these guys are just like, oh, well, if I don't like it, I'll just get in the transfer portal and leave. It's like, look, man, you still got to understand something. Like, you're still going to be there for a amount of time. Like, you need to go and see campus and talk to people, which for me now, like, and the timeline is something that, every college guy we talk to is like, look, what's one of the biggest issues? It's the timeline, right? Because you're trying to sign guys in your bowl season, and now the transfer portal opens up, and you're trying to do this and trying to do that. But we talk about it now, and I brought it, Dave and I have talked about it. It's like official visits used to happen during the school year when everybody was on campus, when things were like going on. Now official visits happen like post, nobody's there. They're on their visit.
The summer,
there's camps going on, right? And it's like, okay, and like, now coaches are talking to guys on official visits, but they're also working camp on campus. It's like, I just don't understand. Like, how the hell you guys juggle
I know. I commend you. I commend you.
Bigger schools with bigger staff. Like, we're seeing college staffs expand where, like, half the guys aren't even, like, they're not even football people. They're social media guys, or they're NIL guys. They're business guys. They're just, like, there's so much more to college football now than people really understand. And I think that's part of the issue is parents they really just they don't know. And even worse is most high school head coaches have no clue what goes on at high level college football, because it just has changed so fast that they can't even catch up.
It changed so much. And most high school coaches, to be fair to most high school coaches, they a lot of them did not play at the Division I level. You know, they probably, most high school coaches, especially New Jersey, and you know this, Derek, because so many of your friends and alumni coach, they played Division III football. They got their teachers education, and they went right as a teacher. And so that process is very different than the higher level. So when you do have a guy that is a higher level, it is hard for a high school coach, and it's a lot easier. Not that college coaches mean to go around the high school coach, but why would you you want to know from the high school coach, is this kid a good kid? Does he work hard? Does he do what he's supposed to do in school? You're going to do the evaluation most of the time now on the talent. The old days when I was, in the school in the 90s where the coach came in, even early 2000s, the coach came in, sat with us. We watched film. They watched film together, pointed out the different things we like. Those days are gone because things are moving so fast. Things are moving way too fast. And you have player personnel departments. So I'm pretty sure in North Carolina, you guys are starting to build out that other side, very much mirroring the NFL. I was an NFL agent for 6 years, and most of the time with my players, I dealt with GM, player personnel, and we only dealt with coaches if they really decided, hey, we're going to put this on the outside linebacker coach's plate. I want him to look at him before we take him in the draft spot. Talk about how that's becoming a bigger thing, player personnel in college football, and how you guys, your relationship and your balance there.
Yeah, I think, what they do is they've got so much film that they're pouring through, and the film access, right, compared to 10 years ago, 15 years ago, whatever, it's everywhere, right? You can get all these kids film in a snap of a finger. So there's, we're looking for whatever position. Hey, I'm looking for a good kicker. That's got a big kickoff leg or whatever. All of a sudden, you got 50 guys films queued up for you to evaluate. And then as you do that, like you said, the high school coach now just becomes he's a check mark. He's the guy that you have to contact to make sure that you're getting a kid who's a hard worker and not a bad kid and all those things. But also, unfortunately, they don't have as much influence anymore. I mean, there's fantastic head coaches that I used to lean on, and they trust you and you trust them, and they know your program and who the head coach is, and they would funnel kids your way. Now, I still think that happens some, but not like it used to be. Not like it used to be. There's too many other, the handlers and the street agents and all the other, things that they're involved with. Yeah. So they're getting guys, pushing them in different directions, and they're not leaning on the guy that probably they should, which is the high school coach who's got their best interest in mind. It's just unfortunate. It's unfortunate that it's what it is now,
And the high school coach, to be fair to them too, they're pulled in 9,000 different directions.
A million
daily jobs now. In the old days, I mean old days, I don't even mean when I play. I mean, even when I first started coaching, the high school coach didn't have to have all these other responsibilities. Now, most of the high school football coaches are just high school football coaches, but they're pulled into many different things throughout the course of the day that doesn't allow them to have the time to do recruiting. Those guys used to have a free period or two to be able to just work on recruiting. Now, in states like Texas and in the South, obviously, which is the majority of where you're going to get most of your players, they are a lot better with that. That's more of a Northeast thing. That's a limitation in a lot of the Northeast schools that I think Northeast administrators don't realize. That's what makes it harder sometimes for Northeast players to compete, because the football coaches in the South have more ability to reach out and have time to be able to do it, and they give them a little bit more leeway to do it than a lot of guys in the Northeast do. But yeah, I think that's a big part of it too, is that high school coaches are pulled in all these directions. A lot of times it's with their own parents, right? Like the so-and-so parent wants to meet with you. You're not playing as much as he should play. Well, that takes time away from me helping so-and-so player to help get film out to those guys. And I think it is, you're 100% right. Like the old filtering process was a high school coach would send out a videotape, and he wasn't sending out videotapes on every guy, right? He was sending it out on the guys, right?
That's the other part. That's the other big issue.
Now you send it out on everybody.
Every kid and every parent expects a kid, you're gonna play college football. That's hey, if you play high school football, you're gonna go play college football. Every parent expects that to be the case, and that's part of the process too, is just the amount of workload that these guys now have on their shoulders. It's like, how am I supposed to do this at the level that to appease each parent, right, to their level, and then what are we talking about?
Yeah, no, we're talking. I'll tell you what you're talking about. You're talking about when you go in there, and I feel bad when these guys, they're trying to do that, and you ask, hey, who do you like, and they wheel in 8 players, and it's like, all right, are you guys undefeated and scored 50-0 every game, or is it?
Now look, when you go to when you go down, South Florida, your American Heritages, right? Or you want to talk Jersey, when you go to your Boscos or your St. Joe's Montvales or your Bergen Catholics, like, all right, maybe I got 4 or 5 guys coming in the building, and then maybe a couple underclassmen that I'm not coming here for you, but all right, now let me just, some of that. We know how the game works, right? But like, when you're going to freaking like, group 2, whatever school with like, and you will in 8 dudes and all of them are 5'8" or under, we got an issue, coach. Like, what? I get it. Like maybe you should just walk them through the office and write out the other side of the room. All right. That way your principal sees that you're trying to do what you're supposed to do. But at the same time, like, let's have a reality check here. It's just, and on your part, you don't have time for all that shit. Like, dude, I got to get to another school. I got to meet with this guy. Then I got to meet a booster who's in here, who's a North Carolina guy that's maybe, in state. Like, you got a lot of shit to do on your plate. Meanwhile, you got guys calling you, like, where are you at? Like, I get it. So it's just a hard world to navigate, to appease everybody and make sure that everybody's happy along the road. That's not what it's about. At some point, somebody is going to have to take it and be like, look, that ain't what it is. Sorry. And unfortunately, now you have to be the bad guy because, the high school coach hasn't taken care of that, right? Like, that's part of your job is, just be honest with your guys from the jump. And I don't think you'll be in this situation.
Right. And these personnel departments they're doing a great job, in our place in particular too. I mean, they're just, they're phenomenal, so they'll filter guys out and you walk into a place exactly who, we're looking for. I'm not going to miss anybody. Unless you get somebody that transferred in, or that kind of pops up.
Like, how did he get here? Not with these days of social media. Like, hell no. They're transferring. Before probably their high school head coach knows. Hey, coach, I'm transferring to this high school. Well, did you tell your coach? Because he just told me that you got to work out at 3:00. Are you not showing up? Like, oh no, coach, look at my new hat. Like, check it out. I already changed my X page and all this other shit. Like,
I did.
It's like, dude, like, you guys are worried about the wrong shit here, man.
I'm in Florida. 2 years ago, and I talked to the coach, like that weekend before going to school, like on a Tuesday, so it's like Sunday night. And I get to the school and I ask for the kid, and he goes, "No, he's over at the other high school now." And I'm like, that's been 48 hours. So you told me the guy's going to be there on Tuesday, whatever time. I show up, and he's at a different school. It's crazy, man.
What,
and especially, those guys down there, too.
He yelled at him at Sunday. The kid was gone on Monday, Wait a minute. How do you get yelled at on Sunday?
And that's a wild
Would you see him in church and yelled him at church?
It's crazy. I mean, look, my buddy's the head coach, and we've had him on, Mike Smith. He's the head coach at American Heritage, down in Fort Lauderdale, produces all top-level guys, all whatever, you know what I mean? And, he just lost, like, literally the fastest kid in South Florida, receiver. Like, he just left. The kid, hey, I didn't get the ball enough in spring practice. I'm gone. Like, okay. Like, it's like, it's a great problem to have, the amount of talent, but, and I talk to, we talk to these guys up here all the time. Like, look, man, if you're not recruiting your roster or actively having conversations, like, on the regular, like, these kids will just, and it happens in high school now. Jersey passed a rule last year that, you get a one-time free transfer, not have to sit out unless you're a senior. It's like the Wild West.
Mm-hmm.
It's incredible.
It makes you long for the 10-1 DVD duplicators that I used to have. Be like, okay, I have to get out Steve Baharnas's film. This will take me about 3 hours to do the 10-1 duplicator. All right, let's begin. All right, 10-1. Oh, only 6 of them worked. And you remember those? You're like, wait, this is what it was, 8-1 duplicator. Okay, wait a minute.
Hey, let me hang. I got to drive to this diner in the middle of wherever, and I got to meet this coach to exchange
have
film,
green
all the good
dots.
stuff.
The film exchange. Yeah, the VHS film exchange. at an airport, Western Connecticut. You got to meet him 3 hours, and then you come back, and then the fun part starts. You can only copy like 2 at a time or whatever. So who do you give the first copies to? Who's bitching about it? All that kind of stuff, man.
And then it's like, wait a minute, I can't wait. This isn't the right film, Coach. I can't see this dude. He like I can't. What number is he wearing? Like, I don't know. Is he on the hash or is that the sideline? I don't know. But what are we doing?
I remember sending
we all been there.
You might know. I don't know if you remember Benji Wimberly. He used to coach at Paris Catholic, and then he was at Hackensack. And my very first year as my very first exchange as a head coach was with Benji Wimberly. And I go and meet with him, and he's a great guy. And, he's already won a bunch of games and state championships. And I'm the head coach of Saddlebrook. And we're exchanging a VHS film. No, it was DVD, I think it was. And I go and I hand him a DVD. And I get back just about to start practice. And he calls me up. He goes, "Hey, Coach," he's like, you gave me a blank DVD. So I had to go back in there. And I'm like, oh, my God, I got to recopy. And I just began. I had to have the guy start practice while I recopy this thing and get it rolling. But you know what? Those things is interesting because you're right. You could focus on these are the 3 or 4 players that I know or 1 or 2 players that are really recruitable. And I could really talk to all the coaches about them, get them, and the coaches know that, okay, maybe maybe I don't want this kid, but at least they're sending me a pretty quality kid to look at because they're not going to waste their time making 50 DVDs or VHSs about some kid who can't, run and walk and chew gum at the same time. That's not going to happen. Whereas now that part definitely has changed. You'll get a huddle link and say, "I'm very interested in University of North Carolina," and it's a 5'5", 125-pound, slot receiver. I'm a slot receiver. I'm really quick. Well, you have 60 more pounds to go and 4 more inches before I could even possibly take a look. You're probably still too short at that point. And I think that part has really changed. I think that's where the player personnel probably really does help that. You really need just a overall. Before they started going to the player personnel department, that in-between time had to be super difficult because you're probably coaching and looking at all these films at the same time.
Right, because God forbid you miss on one, there's your job right there.
Right. You're trying to filter all that, and do all those other different jobs at the same time. And now they're able to help with that. And even getting the kids on campus piece, they're phenomenal for taking them on tours. I can't tell you how many tours at Washington State that I took the kids around myself. We were able to back then. Or just started getting out of hand. Now at least there's other people that can kind of show them around and then veer off and talk to you for 20 minutes,
And we've talked about it too. Like, that's not your expertise is football, right? Like there are some guys that, look, we've all had coaches that you're like, dude, this guy's a little socially like, hey, you know what I'm saying? Like, we've all had those guys, but are brilliant X's and O guys or can communicate with their players one-on-one and get the gist of. Now you're putting people that are really good at what they do and having them do that. Hey, man, you're the linebackers coach linebackers. We'll tell you what talent, like, hey, maybe you got to send a text or maybe you got to make a call. But, dude, just go coach. We'll give you the list of the guys that we need you to meet or do this or do that. That's your role. But everybody now, I think that can really, and that's where, like, obviously the bigger programs with the more money now can kind of shell out and be like, hey, all right, we need to take this many linebackers in this class. All right, I want this many high school guys, this many transfer guys. Who's in the portal with this and break it down for you so that you're not spending all that extra time doing all that nonsense where you can really focus on what's key for you.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point.
Coach, before we let you go, and I really appreciate you taking all this time to meet with us. This has been great. Talk about what you're like looking forward to this upcoming season. Some of the guys that you're really looking forward to working with, for the upcoming season.
Yeah, I think it's a new place and a new home stadium and a new conference. So you get to see some of those other teams in the ACC, and our staff is phenomenal. The staff that Coach Brown has put together it's unbelievable. So a lot of really veteran, coaches that have been all over the place from Super Bowls all the way down, and it's exciting. It's exciting. I think there's a good team here, and I think there's a chance to be really special. And it's just how it all comes together. Right, every year, it's always like, to me, that's what always I start getting excited when you start getting closer to camp. How is this group of 120 guys going to form? What's it going to look like, and how do we get them to maximize their potential and so we can all be happy and have the results that everybody wants, which is winning a bunch of games and doing it the right way and all those types of things. So it's just exciting. So, it's a new place and a fantastic head coach and just a great place to live too on top of that. So glad to be here.
Oh,
you're in definitely good area.
Chapel Hill's a great area. Although I love North Carolina as a whole, but Chapel Hill is fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
And especially for your family too, right? Like your girls, that's I would assume that they're probably making the move with you down there and whatnot. And I'm sure, wife's happy, like, freaking Washington State, dude, ain't exactly like, it sure as hell isn't New Jersey. I'll tell you that much. Like, so that adjustment to now, like, oh wait, we're going back to civilization. Awesome.
And that's why I tell you, we were, 8 years of Washington State, and the first 3-4 was great, and then it was like, it started slowly, like, all right, we need a little more. My people come to watch the game, fly from Jersey. They got to fly over Washington State to Seattle to fly back to get to Pullman.
So, right, that's Eastern Washington, right? It's that's Cowboy land. People don't realize, because people think of Washington as like Seattle, and
they don't like go the other way, dude. Like,
it's more like Montana. Yeah, it's
border of Idaho. Our AD had a cattle ranch. And he wanted to be a cowboy. It was his retirement.
Maybe that's where I should move. Maybe that's where I should move. I like to be away for civilization. At least for like half the year, I like to be away from civilization. Then come back for the other half.
Yeah, you find me on an island somewhere. I want to be on a beach.
That's it. That's true. You're a little bit far away from the beach where you are right now, so you have to take some vacation time and go to those North Carolina beaches. So, our coach, it's been great having you on. I really enjoy talking to you, and best of luck in the season.
No, appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Coach, appreciate you taking the time, man. We'll talk soon. Really, thank you.
Sounds good.
All right.
That was great. That was fantastic. Oh man,
that story's wild, bro.
What's that? The
Mike Leach
story. Oh yeah, absolutely. Great story.
Like, dude, I knew some of it, but like that's just you're like chasing him down, right? And like, look, it just goes to show, like if you care enough about what you want to do, you know what I mean? Like, you'll just do it, and it is what it is, and you kind of work for it. But like for Mike Leach to be like, dude, I can't shake this guy. I just gotta hire him. Like, okay, like
I love it,
Mike Leach, dude.
Those are the journeys, and that's that's how it works. Like, you get the opportunity, take the most of the opportunity, and then you just grow from there, man. It's absolutely.
And obviously, like, what the one common denominator throughout the whole thing is, like, you have to be a guy that's willing to do and work hard and be good at what you're doing, right? In every aspect of it. To come from freaking, low-level football to rise to that occasion, and then all of a sudden, and like he said, I got promoted real quick. Yeah, because you prove your worth, and now it's like, all right, I'm paying this guy this. No, like, I got to keep him, or he's going to go somewhere else. So let me keep him in the, in my world, and justify like what he's doing. Right. So that's just a Curtis, like, kudos to him for kind of that whole process and sticking with it. Right. Cause he could have easily just been like, you know what, this isn't really for me. Wife's not happy with this. Like, nope. And, so.
That's a
commitment. And now to see him, I mean, look, you're working for Mike Leach and Mac Brown. Like,
that's amazing.
Like amazing. Those two dudes, like, damn, bro. Like, that's amazing.
Two legends. And as soon as they fix the, I think Mike Leach, isn't there something they have to fix for him to get to 60%?
He was like 59.6%, and they're like, round up, dude.
Like, round it up to 60. Get his butt in there,
dude. It's over. Put him in.
I mean, he coached at. That's the funny thing. People don't realize that sometimes, like, Mike Leach is one of those guys that had to build each program. So
every single one, like, nobody was that
losses that go with that. You're going to lose games in the beginning, so obviously that's going to affect your record. It doesn't have anything to do with how good. good at coaching is, like the guy who probably has the highest winning percentage of all time is probably Ryan Day. He probably has the highest percentage
Right,
winning
because he's never lost more than what, 2 games in a year? Like
he walked into a great, obviously he's a great coach, but he walked into a great situation too. So, but anyway, let's get off
100%.
here and we'll go to next week. We have some great ones as well. So.